Welcome to the Real Guy Podcast. This is Captain Jeff, the Lunker Dog, along with Lamont Jones.
What's up, everybody?
Well, I'm pretty fired up about doing a little bit of this recording tonight. This is actually the very first time that Lamont and I have had all of our podcast equipment put together, and we just wanted to do a quick little recording tonight and kind of get the bugs out, get the kinks out, and see if we actually know what we're doing. We can make this thing sound halfway decent.
Yeah, a little bit of trial and error. We bought some new gear, a little bit of a slight learning curve, but I think we got it. It should be sounding pretty good. We got a loud AC unit that we're dealing with. We're just going to have to live with it until we figure out something else. So that hum you hear in the background, that's the AC unit.
Yeah, well, Lamont, they're going to have to put up with some things with our podcast. It's not like we're sitting in here in a $100,000 studio or something. We're in the garage, the same garage that you guys have seen all the YouTube videos, and where the tackle center used to be is now our new studio. So you're just going to have to deal with it. We're just trying to get by over here.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we can work through it. I wanted to talk about basically what our message is going to be throughout this new era of social media that we're going to be doing. I mean, so much has changed in such a short period of time, and it's going to be the perspective from a full-time fishing guide, because I am a full-time fishing guide, and not only we're going to get the perspective from a full-time fishing guide, but also we're going to give you the perspective from where we showed up on the scene in social media, and what attracted so many viewers or created such a big audience was that we weren't like everybody else. We actually spoke the truth. And by speaking the truth, we were able to attract a whole lot of real guys and people that actually like the content. So I want you guys to realize that the podcast is going to be very similar to that. And I know some people are going to get butthurt.
Yeah.
It's going to not be pleasant for everybody. But, just like...
Well, they got butthurt when we first put out the videos, too.
Right.
So anytime we take over a new form of media, people are going to get butthurt, even though nobody over the age of 40 should ever say butthurt.
But what I mean by that is it's no holds barred. I mean, we're going to say what we want to say. There's nobody here that are doing us any favors. There's nobody here that'll give us any cash. We're just here basically to deliver the message to all the people out there that are real guys. And what I mean by that is that you're tired of being persuaded. You're tired of having product and advertising dollars and all sorts of things like that shoved down your throat. This is where we're going to be able to talk about discussions about anything we want, because we simply are going to talk about the truth. And I think if you do talk about the truth, people will get over, being insulted or, being offended or being triggered. There's all sorts of different, terms that people use nowadays. So I'm not going to apologize right up front, but I just want you to know that you guys are going to have to get over it.
Well, I imagine the tutorial crowd, the guys that are big into tutorials and how-to vids and podcasts and blogs, should probably look into a how-to or instructional video on how not to get mad when you get made fun of.
That's all right. I think what Lamont's getting at is we're not here to teach you guys how to be fishing experts. You know what I mean?
There's plenty of other guys out there with millions of subscribers that'll show you how to catch a redfish.
Well, it's always been a sore spot in Lamont's. Lamont's had issues ever since Sosen didn't sign the how-to book and put his name on it, and I think it hurt Lamont. I think it emotionally scarred him for life. And I don't know. I think we'll be able to work through it, but everybody's just going to have to realize that you're going to get the Captain Jeff. You're going to get the real guy angle on all the issues that we're going to bring up in sport fishing. And the cool thing about the podcast is it doesn't matter. It's not just the saltwater fishing that we do down here in South Florida, into the getting the tarpon all the time, the other guys, the snooks and the bonefish and all that. This is actually going to be appealing for all the guys. even the guys feeding their family up there, the Wicked Tuna crowd. I think everybody's gonna, enjoy the content, and just remember, we're only having a good time over here. You know what I mean? No one's telling you that this is scripture. No one's trying to beat this down your throat or anything. All this is us, having a really good time and doing what we like to do. So let's talk about being original real guys and what that actually means. Like when we say original real guys, all that is it's a term. And the term was made up and brought up because there was no real guys for people that are into sport fishing to actually listen to. I mean, the closest thing you got to were the original bass guys like Bill Dance and Roland Martin, because those guys were actually throwing rubber worms and stuff at fish. And people actually bought those rubber worms and stuff because of them. But pretty much everything after that, has been driven by ad dollars. Has been driven not necessarily to help you catch more fish, but to help you spend more money on the products that are advertising for the fishing magazines, the fishing shows, and now, unfortunately, social media. See, for the longest time, I don't know, what we probably celebrated, a decade of social media?
Yeah.
Before they were able to manipulate it the same way the magazines did and the same way the fishing shows did. And we were fortunate enough to put out a whole bunch of fun videos about catching big fish when social media was more original. It was more organic. And if you were actually into fishing and you typed in sport fishing or inshore fishing or marlin fishing or whatever, you would get guys that were actually into fishing. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't the best things for the algorithms and to sell more ads. So now, when you type in fishing, you'll often get Goliath groupers, shark fishing, turtles, manatees.
Guy falls off boat.
Right, guy falls off boat. Just anything but real guy content.
Fishing,
yeah. And we get it. If you want to make a living, or if you want to be a YouTuber or whatever, you have to make the content that's going to get hundreds of thousands or millions of views. That's not what we're doing here.
No.
I mean, not in the least. So, the real guys out there appreciate the type of message, content, stuff that we talk about. And no, we're not going to teach you to be an expert fisherman, but we are going to have a good time. We're going to laugh a little bit, and we're going to bring you people on this show that have a perspective on fishing, have a perspective on the industry, have a perspective on the business, have a perspective on social media that you probably aren't used to hearing. Because the people that are going to be on this show, have a plan on how they're going to catch a lot of fish and how they were going to fish some of these guys 200 days a year. And it's going, that's a different perspective than somebody trying to, sell you a boat or an engine or has a sponsor or whatever. It's just, a lot different. So I hope you guys get that. And we just want you to know that, we are the voice of the sponsorless.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not into being on pro staffs.
No.
And we don't take me wrong, I'm not criticizing anybody that is on a pro staff. But that's not, our objective. We don't try to be on pro staffs or necessarily, think that that's even part of the ballgame.
Right.
So anyway, so we're the voice of the sponsorless, and whether you guys like it or not, that would be the majority of you. Because the whole sponsor thing, well, let me put it to you this way. Unless somebody's giving you cash, then you are not sponsored.
Correct.
Right.
Getting a box with a 50/50 t-shirt, a hat that was made in China, and 6 stickers is not a sponsorship.
Right. Now, if they're stroking you checks, if you're getting 10 grand a month, or $5,000 a month because whatever you're doing, producing content, catching a lot of fish or whatever, then you have a sponsor. And God bless you if you got that, but that's not exactly what we're looking at over here. So we're in a fortunate position because the time that we were on YouTube and we're doing social media where the real people actually saw the content that they wanted, not only did we get recognized here in South Florida where we do our fishing, but all over the country and all over the world, internationally recognized with no sponsors, without hundreds of thousands of dollars put behind us to create content, video, TV, or anything. It was simply just Lamont and myself having a good time showing you the big fish that we catch around South Florida. And as far as I know, there's not another fisherman or guide that has been put in that position. Like, for instance, most of the guys that you guys see on YouTube or in social media became popular because of social media, and then they became like fishing experts or fishing character, or I don't know, how do you say it, YouTubers or whatever. But we were actually doing that way before social media, and the stuff that we were able to put out originally was never meant to game the system, was never meant to get 1 million subscribers or whatever. All it was meant to do was to show the content that what real fishermen do on a real basis. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think that because we came from a different angle, from a different style, and we're pretty much a minority, that hopefully that these podcasts and this new content that we're going to be put out, agrees with you. Now, in the podcast show, we're going to have different people on the show. We're going to have regulars. We're going to have guys that, are regular guests that are funny and have a good time in here. We're also going to have, the real pros. We're going to have guys that actually, do 200 days a year. And everybody throws around, oh yeah, I fish 200 days a year. Dude, you do not. There's like 1 in 1,000 guides that actually fish 200 days a year. And we're going to bring them to you here at the Real Guy Podcast. We're going to get their perspective on things, because there's one thing that you cannot take a shortcut to, and that's just water time. There's only one way to get water time, and that's putting the hours in and spending the time on the water. And these are the type of people we're going to bring to you as special guests. So not all our regulars are going to be those type of people. We're going to have regular guys. I mean, regular guys like the Horse Cranker, regular guys like Norm, regular guys like Vason, like Busaka. And we're going to have our regular dudes on here. And then we're going to have what I would call the super pros, the guys that are actually fishing 200 days a year. And in the guide community, that's like the top 1% of the guides. It's not everybody, And so we're going to get that perspective, and it's going to be a little bit different. Also, I want to, make sure that you understand that the Real Guy Network that we appeal to is a network that actually engages itself with the social media that we provide. Like, for instance, like when we have live events, we have hundreds and hundreds of people that show up at these events. They hang out with one another. They have things in common with one another. And because of that, they have a good time with one another. And that's what it's all about. It's about the Real Guy Network and how it's grown, the type of people that are in there, and hopefully that these types of podcasts will appeal to them, and they'll like it, and they'll run with it. So, Lamont, anything that I was missing there that you want to put in?
That all sounds pretty good. It's just a good intro. People that have been watching the vids for a lot of years or whatever, they know what to expect. It's just going to be the same thing, but the audio version of it and a little more fleshed out.
What do you mean fleshed out?
Well, we have a more time. Like,
Right.
say, we can stretch it out to, 35 minutes. One of the things we tried not to do with the videos was spend a lot of time shooting reeling in the fish.
Right.
Like, I like to show the stuff leading up to hooking the fish. If you get what is it called? The attack or the take on camera, that's good. And then shoot a little bit of reeling and then get to the fish. Like, there's pretty much nothing more boring than watching somebody else catch a fish. It's about what happens before and like a little bit when you get to see the fish and the release and then it's over. In this format, it's not visual, so we're going to be able to flesh out stuff a lot longer. And, we can get an hour and a half podcast going where we can dig deep into some subjects that you necessarily can't do on a video.
Right. You show like a 6-minute video, and they're fun videos. There's a lot of action in them. You get the music and the quick editing and all that, and then you have the comments. And then the problem with that is then it's over, and then people are just left there to kind of have their own opinion about what they just saw. And then you see it in the comments. You got some dudes that absolutely love it. You got some other dudes that absolutely hate it. And then you got people that, have fun with it and all different other, angles. But it's just weird that, when you only have, what are most of those videos, 3 to 12 minutes? Yeah. You just don't have the time, to talk about, what you were actually trying to accomplish, what your actual message was, that day we did the video. One of the things that I think that's going to be neat is we're going to try to figure out how we can watch some of the old videos and refer to some of the old videos while we're doing this podcast. And then I also want to develop where you guys can call in and actually talk to us, because we're going to have certain times when we're going to make that available. At least we hope we are, if we're technically inclined enough to actually get it done. And I don't know. I got a feeling we'll get that done. So yeah, the podcast is definitely. What did you call it? What was the term you used?
What do you mean? I don't know.
It's definitely gonna be a lot more detailed.
Oh, deep dig, a deep dive into subjects.
I don't know, dude. So, but the main thing is the message is always going to be truthful, and I think people are gonna, they're gonna dig that. The other thing that that our network has shown us over the years is that the people in our network, whether they're fishermen or whether they're carpenters or whether they're accountants or whatever they do, you have to work hard. You have to get up and bust your ass every day to make it happen if you want to fish. Because there's a lot of commitment to it. Well, it's expensive, it costs a lot of money to fish, so you got to work hard to make some cash so you can do the type of fishing that you want to do. So if you're an accountant, you got to bust your ass so you can what? So you can get your fishing in. If you're on the other end of the spectrum, like the fishing guide, yeah, you're gonna, again, you're taking people fishing. You're not fishing, so the time that you get to actually fish, is very, very limited. So no matter which perspective you're coming from, we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to figure out, when we can get it done, how we can get it done, and you got to have a plan. And you see a guy out there fishing, and whether he's a guy that gets out there once a month or twice a month or twice a week, or a guy that fishes every single day, you look over at that person, you recognize him, and you realize in one form, fashion, or another that he's probably working hard. He's probably putting in some serious time, some serious commitment, some serious devotion so he can fish. And by bringing those people together makes this network special. And it's funny because when you look from side to side, and you see who's working hard and who's doing the right thing. I mean, the first time I experienced it was in football. I mean, I show up to my first place and where I'm going to play football, and I never played the game before. And I look around, and I see a whole bunch of kids, all different colors, sizes, languages, and coming from, a small community that, wasn't so diverse, and to see that, wasn't sure how to take it. And I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks go by. We called them. There was a time where you had to do what's called two-a-days. You're getting ready for the season. And when you're doing two-a-days, you got to see, the different kids that were out there, the ones that were willing to put in the time and the energy. And whether that kid was good-looking or bad-looking, whether he was big, tall, fat, or skinny, no matter what color he was, no matter what language he spoke, you looked over and you were like, that's a hard-working guy. And you were immediately attracted to that person because you both had one thing in common. You were working hard for the common goal of being a good football player and being a good teammate. That also happened when I got into business. You get into business and you're working hard and you're trying to figure out, the peers you want to have and who you want to hang out with, who you'd like to speak with. And it's funny because in business, just like football, is you didn't want, if you were a hardworking son of a gun, you did not want to hang out with the dudes that weren't the hardworking son of a guns. You felt like you were two different people, not quite opponents, but you weren't out of the same make. And it really hit me with the fishing because so many people that are into the sport don't put in the time and the effort and the hard work to make them the most successful they can be. And that's okay. But the guys that do have a natural connection with each other. And I think we brought that out in all the years we've been putting out social media. And this podcast is always going to come from that perspective. For the hardworking people, for the people that actually care, for the people that actually have to have to put in serious time and energy to make their plans so they can go out there and they can get good fish, and more importantly, so they can have a good time. We're going to stress having a good time because it's something that we've always done, and when you have a good time with other people that have a lot in common with you, you break down all barriers and you become united. So anyway, the Real Guy Network is just like that. Our podcast is going to be like that. Our content has always been like that. And we're going to keep that track. We could talk about things, like politics or all sorts of topics, current affairs, that would make the podcast with hundreds of thousands of subscribers and all this different stuff. But that's not what we're really into. We're into getting the real guy crowd. We're into getting the people that actually have something in common, that look side to side and say, hey, I know that guy. I'd like to fish with that guy. I think that guy's a good guy. And, I don't know. It just seems natural to me. And there's a reason you should listen to the podcast. And the reason is because this is one of the few forms of media, especially when it comes to the topic of fishing, where you're going to get good information, but not a maze of information that you have to pick through. Like, we're not going to tell you to buy a certain product so you can be better. We're going to show you the products that the guys that are good use, and we're going to show you the products that have been make people more successful. But the content is never going to be wrapped around trying to motivate you to buy something like that. So, we're still going to do videos. We're still going to post up a lot of pictures. I'd like to kind of wrap up tonight. It's more of a test show, just to see if we can make it sound halfway decent. But this is going to be the beginning of a long series of this type of entertainment. And we're going to fine tune it. We're going to get it exactly how we like. And we just wanted to take the time to give the message to the listeners. Kind of tell you where we're at with this thing. And where we're going. And it's totally new to me. Like, I'm still figuring out how to work the software and stuff. But I don't think it's going to take too long. And I think it's going to be some good stuff. Lamont, go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Yeah, it was a good first intro episode. Still doing a little bit of tweaking here with the different, with the mixer and dialing the sound in. Each show should be better than the last one for the, first 5 or 10 that we do. And if you guys follow us on social media, you follow Jeff on social media, reach out on Facebook or any of the other accounts on Instagram or anything, and tell us how you listen to podcasts. Whether you listen to them in your car or at home, through a Bluetooth speaker or through headphones while you're on the treadmill. Let us know, if you listen to podcasts now, how you're listening to them. And also, if this is your first podcast, let us know that too. Like, hey, guys, this is going to be the first podcast.
Yeah. And I think what we're going to do, we'll do a triple live on some of the social media platforms. And we'll talk about the easiest ways to subscribe to the podcast or get the podcast or know that a new one came out. I never really listened to them too much. But when I found out how easy they were to find and to search through and to actually listen to, I've been listening to them on my way to work. I've been listening to them when I'm getting my workout in. And I hope you do too. Thanks for tuning in to the first Real Guy podcast. This is Captain Jeff, the Lunker Dog, along with Lamont Jones from Better Duck Studios. And thanks for tuning in.